Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Don't you want to sound rich?
Welcome to the 79th episode of Social Suplex's podcast about AEW with a proclivity for positivity. Welcome to All Things Elite. My name is Austin Sumowitz, and I am your host for this lovely show. Joining with me, as always, is my good partner, Floyd Johnson Jr. Floyd, how you doing, my man?
I'm up and down. COVID starting to annoy me. My football game. I'm a Chiefs fan, and it looks like both teams had a positive test this week, so my football game got postponed. And as we're talking right now, my Florida State Seminoles are playing a college football game, and we just started a freshman quarterback, and I'm like really excited about him, and he throws an interception that is returned for a touchdown. Like literally as I said go, it happened.
Oh gosh.
So that was annoying. But other than that, I mean, life's good. I really don't have any complaints. I work at home, blah, 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 good stuff, fortunate. But on Saturdays and Sundays, reality goes away for a little while. And I can think about all the positive stuff in my life, and, I'm the proclivity for positivity. So Saturday, if, football teams that I don't play for and have no control over don't win, it does put me in a bad mood for a few hours. I know it sounds ridiculous because I am an adult, but it's a thing. It's a thing. And
considering how some fans react when their team loses a football.
You cut out, Austin. Are you gone? Did you die?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Weird. I don't know why that happened.
So it said considering, and then you went out. So repeat that, please.
So considering the fact that most NFL fans, when their team loses, have a lot more freakouts than just being slightly annoyed and kind of upset, like that's not even that unreasonable for you to be like, oh man, I'm annoyed that my team lost.
I would say 5 years ago, I used to throw just flat out fits, like, don't talk to me, blah, 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 go in another room and shut the door. As I've gotten older, I have matured, and I still get angry. Don't get me wrong. And it's funny because you know me and my personality. I'm not an angry person. So my wife didn't know how angry I could get. So I meet her, we move in, and, it's kind of towards the end of college season, beginning in the middle of football, NFL season. And I was okay. And then we lost like a game I didn't think we should lose, and I kind of snapped. And she had never seen me angry. She's like, of all the things that can get you angry, she's like, if someone can talk about your mom, call you bad names, all that stuff, and I've seen you just shake it off and not care. But if your football team loses, that's when you lose it. And I was like, Yeah, because I literally have no control over it. That's why it angers me. That's why it angers me so much. I have no control over it. It's like if they're getting like destroyed, you just have to watch it. It's like, well, after they lose, you can't be like, hey, I'm going to work with the offensive line. I have nothing to do with it.
There's no way to improve.
Yeah, there's no way to improve other than to keep rooting. So it's the craziness of fanhood. I talk about this because I know the people listening to this show are pretty big AEW fans. And ESPN used to have this commercial, and they would say, it's not crazy, it's sports. It is so utterly, absolutely, positively true. It's like, I consider myself a sane person. But when 18 to 22-year-olds don't play a sport play the sport the way I want them to do it, I get really, really, really pissed. Yeah.
Hey, man, I mean, like, considering, like, I can only imagine what certain fans are thinking right now. Like, while I'm from Detroit and I support my Detroit Lions, even though, honestly, at this point, I'm kind of rooting for them to just tank because I want Patricia and Quinn gone. My Vikings are 0-3, and I'm not okay with that at all. So it's completely reasonable, but just not when people start breaking shit or fighting people, because I've seen videos of that, and it's just like, come on, man.
Okay, now, you weird thing, that the whole idea of breaking shit and fighting people, that is a reason going to a Premier League football game in the UK is very high on my list of things to do.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yes. It's like, I'm not the biggest soccer fan ever or anything. I barely understand the game, the intricacies, but I understand crazy fanhood. And I want to be, as soon as I saw that's a thing that happens, I was like, I want to be around those people.
Dude, like, if you want to understand how great UK soccer crowds are, my favorite video of all time is when somebody brought, and this is way off topic, and we'll get to AEW in a bit, but I have to mention this. My favorite video by far of any UK crowd in a football or soccer match is there were these people that were knocking around an inflatable penis, and then eventually security took it away from them. And they just started singing at the security guard, "We want our deck back! We want our deck back! We want our deck back! We want our deck back!" And I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
Yes, UK fans and the singing of the songs, it's such an interactive experience. Before their problematic times, that's why Progress was like one of my favorite shows to watch. Because it was such an interactive experience. Like, generally, wrestling is wrestling, but you're like watching wrestling, listening to the crowd. They're kind of telling you who to like, telling you who not to like. It was just a good time. So, yeah. So we can talk about AEW, I guess. I think that's why people actually downloaded it. Yeah, downloaded it.
I think that's the main reason why. But shout out to all UK fans of anything. Like, you're awesome. You're unbelievably entertaining, and we love watching. Like, I love watching UK crowds when they watch wrestling all the time. But yes, this is the 79th episode of Social Suplex's podcast about AEW. This is All Things Elite. So we're going to be talking about AEW Dynamite from this week. We have a couple other things to preview. We have a lot of upcoming stuff that's going to be really exciting, and I'm very excited to talk about a couple other things that happened outside of Dynamite. But before we get into the show, I want to make sure you're downloading the show on Google or Apple Podcasts. Shout outs to Spotify listeners as well. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. And if you are so inclined, you can also leave a donation through our podcast provider, Red Circle. And if you want to support us on social media, follow us on Twitter at ATElitePod, at Social Suplex, at SZoomer4, which is myself, and then at Floyd Johnson Jr., which is Floyd. The big news of the week for AEW is that it's been 1 year since AEW Dynamite started off on TNT, which is just wild considering how fast it flew by. Because, I mean, like, even now, I still recollect back to when I went to All In, which, like, literally seems like, oh, that was like maybe a little over a year and a half ago. No, that was way longer ago. That was like 2 years ago, maybe longer. And it's just crazy to me, like, how quick of a fan base AEW built in such a short amount of time, and how when the whole like Wednesday Night Wars thing was like quoted by the fans and being like, this is the thing, and then like it's kind of the companies believed that it was the thing as well. And yeah, then like AEW was like consistently holding their own, and it's just been a wild year ride. There's been a lot of crazy ups and a couple downs, and we're completely fine with saying that. There's been many downs because that's what happened with any wrestling show, but it's been an awesome year just to go through everything and just experience it all. And it's just like anytime you watch a new up and coming company, it's always so entertaining to see how their first year goes, because there's just so much ideas and so many creative thoughts and stories that get put out there, and like it can create some of the best memories. Like I remember when WCPW started, and like I remember like within the first year, like when Adam Pacitti turned heel and then on Martin Kirby, and then fans pelted him with pink glow sticks. That's still one of my favorite images in all of professional wrestling, just because it's the most insane shit, and it was completely unprovoked, or set up. Like the fans just did it on their own. They were just like, "All right, glow sticks at you for doing that." And it's been a wild ride, honestly. And there's just way too many memories that I can't even list with how much AEW's done in just a year's time.
Yeah, absolutely. I posted a video on the All Things Elite website, and it was me. It was a video I taken of the first entrance with Cody and Brandy coming out in AEW history. And if you actually go to Dynamite on TNT, or if you have a copy of that first show, you'll see Cody come out, and then you'll see me, Floyd, right in the screen, my big, ginormous head, looking right at you, and it was like I was, part of history. I mean, it was one of those things. I flew into DC that day for the show when it had some Shake Shack, and then went to the show and basically flew out the first flight out the next morning. It was something I had to, I was somewhere I had to be, something I had to do. 1 year anniversary. I was just proud to be a part of it, because my first trip to Chicago ever in my life. Chicago's a city I always wanted to go to, but the first time I ever went to Chicago was being the Elite crew. It's Cody, Bucks, Kenny, Hangman, and Redacted. We're at the shop, PWT shop, and they were doing photos and autographs, and I went to that, right? And that's when you kind of started hearing the rumors of they're gonna do their show, right? Then the fact that they did their show, the fact that they did it, it was like, wow, okay, they pulled it off. And I went to All In weekend. Me and you didn't even know each other. We were both there. We didn't even know each other. So that was crazy. And we were both there, and Cody won the NWA title, and then the main event, which everybody's like, oh, it was missed time, but it was so perfect because it was a sprint. Rey Mysterio was in the main event of All In.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
So was Kota Ibushi. And, Okada was on the show. It's funny because as much as it kind of sucks, in New Japan and ROH created their own competition. Yeah.
They use New Japan and ROH guys to create the next big company in wrestling. So, then you started hearing the rumors of, they're going to start their own company, and then JR is included, and JR is like, no, I'm not starting my own company. You're crazy. January.
Yeah.
And then you found out JR and Chris Jericho were in it from the beginning. But it's just like so much that's happening. I just love AEW. I thank God they exist. I state anyone that listens to this show, I will say it over again. You can like anything you want. I don't like the only reason there was a Wednesday Night War is because TV shows lined up against each other. If let's say NXT stayed,
I mean, like it's just
Yeah, if NXT stayed on the network, there would be no Wednesday Night War. AEW would probably consistently put over 1 million people on their TV because that's what they do when they don't have other wrestling competition. So that's what made it a war. I don't care. I'll tell anyone. I really don't care what you watch. I would prefer you watch AEW first if you're going to watch AEW because as I stated, and this is my only reason it's practical, AEW needs you. WWE doesn't. They have 2 other shows, one on Monday and one on Friday. They don't really need the audience for NXT, you know? So that's why I always say watch AEW, just practical. But I just love all wrestling, and I just love that AEW exists. I think for me, I know for some people, I feel like they have found that balance because I always thought my perfect wrestling company was somewhere between New Japan and WWE. Like, I love the soap opera style and glitz and glamour and production of WWE. And then I love the meat and potatoes. It's just about performance fighting of New Japan. It's all real. I love both of those. But I always thought my ideal company would be in the middle. And I feel like that's what AEW does. They are all about the performance fighting, and, you know, it's about the belts, it's about wins and losses, it's about all those things I love, you know. But then you do get some of the soap opera, too. Like the Butcher's gonna kill, the Blade is gonna kill QT, and we all know it's coming, and we're just kind of waiting, you know. And it's just like you do get that soap opera enough, but yeah, I just love it. We could have done a whole hour show just on the 1 year anniversary of Dynamite, but I'm just gonna stop now because you got to know when to say when.
Sure, yeah, and we got a lot to talk about on this week's episode of AEW Dynamite. And the show opened up, honestly, pretty decent. Like the matchup, overall, I was super excited that this main event, this opened the show. It was absolute Ricky Starks versus Darby Allin. Now going into this match, Ricky Starks had 8 straight singles wins, and Darby Allin had only just recently come back a couple weeks ago, and they went at it a bunch. There was a point where Brian Cage comes out to try to get into the ring, but then Will Hobbs comes out and then just takes down Brian Cage to keep them from interrupting the match. And eventually there's just multiple back and forths between it. And then it gets to the point where it gets to the finish. Ricky Starks tries to go for the Avalanche Rochambeau from the turnbuckle. Darby Allin then counters it, kicks him in the face. Ricky loses his balance, falls to the mat, and then Darby hits the coffin drop. Great placement and great counter to put him open and really get the steal win for Darby Allin and break that 8-win winning streak for Ricky Starks. And I thought the way that the finish came about was really cool. And I also like that they had the Team Taz interference, but they got it out of the way pretty quickly in the match and then had the match finish completely clean. I thought it was good to establish that Team Taz members back each other up in big matches, and then at the same time make sure that oh no, Darby's getting a legit win over this, and it's a really good win for Darby too, because he needs these big wins to help really establish the fact that he's back, because people love Darby regardless, but to make sure he still feels like a big deal, beating somebody who hasn't lost a match in 8 singles matches, that's a big win. So I'm all for this opening matchup.
Yeah, let me tell you, you can look at a lot of other companies, and you can look at whatever your opinion of them is. There is not a lot of undercard rivalries built as well as this one, as far as Darby versus Ricky Starks. Talking about Ricky Starks wasn't even signed, 3-4 months ago?
Yeah.
And the story has basically started as soon as he signed with Team Taz in July. And this has been a 3-month program building to this match. And it's just and then the match delivered as a first match on the card, and it was just you look at it and you think about what Darby Allin is. You try to think about what Ricky Starks is going to be. Ricky Starks is the pin eater of Team Taz. Darby Allin is the up and comer. He's kind of He's like if Sting and Jeff Hardy had a baby. So he's like got the pace feint, and the high flying, and it's just like they're polar opposites. Ricky Starks would look like a young Rocky Maivia. You know what I mean? It's just like he dresses right. He got him a manager. He doesn't necessarily care how he wins. And Darby Allin is kind of his perfect, like if you saying like a reflection of each other. And the match references that. Ricky Starks is not a high flyer at all. Darby Allin's throw his body at him. They got the Brian Cage. They didn't want you sitting there waiting the whole match for Brian Cage to interfere, so they got that out the way with Will Hobbs, and then Taz stayed at the announce table. He didn't come down to do it. He is really more like a coach. He's like, I'm going to go over film with you. We're going to talk strategy, but when it comes to in-ring, you got to go do you. And that's, to me, perfect marriage, again, between soap opera, them two having each other and being part of groups, and sports, where your coach lets the players play. Like, I can't, I'm the coach. I'm not supposed to be getting physically involved. So it's that perfect marriage of it there. That's what this match, no other rivalry talks to what I was talking about finding that middle ground more than this match.
No, literally, that's exactly what I was thinking too in that whole idea. And this match executed that so well because, one of the biggest things wrestling fans aren't for are like constant rivalries elongated by non-finishes. So when you have legit good finishes and then you can still keep this rivalry going even if you want to, and people are still interested, that's showing that you really have built a really strong mid-card, a really strong undercard, that people still care about these non-title feuds, even after you give good finishes that are relatively decisive. And yeah, I haven't seen many issues with that in AEW for quite a while.
Yeah, no issues with it at all. I really enjoy this match. I'm looking forward to, I could see these two feuding 3 years from now, and, for the title. It's just like, this was the youth of AEW. This is what people could see going forward, and it drew over 1 million viewers.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, very obviously there are people out there that were very interested in this match.
Mm-hmm. Now, after this, we had the American Nightmare Cody hit the ring and cut an interview with Dasha Gonzalez, and pretty much talked about how he was feeling, talking about how he's kind of feeling like, like you always wrestle hurt, you never wrestle injured, but like what if it transcends physical and it's more spirit of your injury. And then he talks about how he's the guy who got beat in 3 minutes and he's doubting himself. And then he gets brought up on if he accepts the dog collar match made by Mr. Brody Lee for the TNT Championship. And he talks about the optics of this match is unsafe, bloody, violent. And as the executive vice president of the company, and for a title that he's so damn proud to have, his answer is no, walks out the ring, like waits for a good 10 seconds. And everyone's like thinking like, oh man, like I loved Excalibur being like, Cody's psychological injury might be deeper than we all thought it was. He then runs back into the ring and then says, no, as in no regrets. No as in no looking back. We enter much different than we leave for the TNT title dog collar match next week. I accept. And that's when Mr. Brody Lee comes out with his Dark Order brethren. And then they just start brawling. AEW officials and wrestlers are separating them. Brandy Rhodes comes out to try to separate everything. She ends up doing a flipping senton off the top rope onto the Dark Order, and then gets into a fight with Anna Jay. And then also at one point, Nyla Rose grabs Killian King and slams her down to the ground, and then just they're continuously going back and forth at each other. The best part of this whole segment, honestly, besides Cody's promo, was when oh my god. Why am I blanking on his name? I love him too much.
John Silver
goes by. Yes, he comes by and he just starts hugging Brody Lee to keep him away from Cody. It's like just like holding him back, and then Brody just shoves him. It's just John Silver's the man, and I apologize for forgetting his name. Now, this segment was really good. The only things that I had like nitpicks on was I really don't know what was the need to fit in a Nyla Rose Killian King spot, because it really just kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, because like Brandy and Anna Jay makes total sense because it relates with the Nightmare Family versus the Dark Order. That's completely fine. But Nyla Rose and Killian King have nothing to do with this whole segment, and then they just like, oh, our feud started, boom, and it just seemed like, okay, they're gonna be fighting soon. Like, you couldn't have done that in like a backstage promo. Like, why all of a sudden are they fighting in this whole brouhaha? Like, I get it, like everything broke down, and then Nyla Rose saw an opportunity. Like, I get that for story reason. It just came out of nowhere and like just kind of threw me off, as like the focus was all on the dog collar match, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, Nyla Rose and Killian King are gonna, like, I thought you could have just given them their own segment to build that match and like build that, like, what's gonna be happening. But other than that, this segment was great, but that's pretty much the only nitpick that I have with it.
So let's go through the segment. Cody promo, great as usual. Okay, I've had a problem with this feud, and I might be the only one. It's just like the dog collar thing.
I was gonna say,
seems to, like, to me that is an escalation of a blood feud, and I don't feel like these two have reached blood feud level. You know what I mean? Do you feel me?
Well, the thing too is that the bringing up of the dog collar, and for Brody Lee to bring it up and like offer that, it like that seems like something that like Cody would do. Yeah,
like, but, you like, embarrassed me. Like, so to me, the result would be Cody comes back, challenges Brody Lee. Somehow, nefarious means, whatever kind of creepy shit, Cody beats Brody Lee by count out or some crap. Doesn't lose the belt, but beats him in a weird way. Brody Lee feels Cody was running away from him. Then he say dog collar. Or Brody Lee gets counted out on purpose. And Cody's like, oh, Brody Lee's losing to Cody, and then gets counted out on purpose. And then Cody says, hey, dog collar match, right? Usually, it's an escalation. Dog collar match. I don't feel like this is escalation. It's like Brody Lee beat the shit out of Cody in 3 minutes. Okay, the next step is a rematch. It is not to escalate the feud to a dog collar, because to me, even with his wife getting beat up by another and his friends getting beat up, okay, again, Cody would be the one to introduce the dog collar or a cage or something like that. It just doesn't feel, like I said, it feels weird.
And I think yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Wow, the way that the match came about, like, I thought could have been handled a lot better for it to make way more sense. Like, I'm like, it's just, yeah, that's the only thing with the segment. Like, the segment by itself was great, but just the way that we got here, like, could have been handled way better.
And then that's what I was gonna say, building on that. So Cody cuts his promo, then he walks away. So second thing, this runs into my second thing. He walks away, and I was hoping he just walked away. Because then, you know, over the next few weeks, Brody Lee's calling him a little bitch, blah, blah, blah. And again, that builds more into the dog collar match. And of course, you do the dog collar match at Full Gear. So you can have all the blood and all that stuff, you know what I mean? And you don't have to worry about, you know, like ratings and shit. Because I don't know how well this is going to go off on cable TV.
That is a good point.
Yeah, so I don't know how well this is going to go off. We're going to see. So, and it's like, again, this is not me doubting Cody. I think in the end, they're going to do the match. It's going to be fine. But what is the word that I overuse when talking about Cody? What does he bring?
I mean, like, you can say it better than I can.
Gravitas. And I feel like this match doesn't have gravitas. That's the thing Cody brings, and this match doesn't have it.
And for him to, like, this is his return to that, like, that match doesn't have it.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel it. And this is a person that gives Cody every benefit of the doubt ever. But if somebody's like, well, this feels forced, I'm like, yeah, it feels forced. I can't even argue. I can't even do my FTR, flip everything around to the way that it works out to my advantage thing on it. Because, it feels kind of forced. It's like, it feels like, hey, I want to do a dog collar match, so we're doing a dog collar match. That's what it feels like to me.
I mean,
it just feels like, oh, yeah, we'll make it work. It's like, okay, we're going to do a dog collar match in 3 weeks. We're going to make it work.
I get that they want to, like, get a really big match for a TNT main event, and that's fine, but, like, I don't feel like with a match like a dog collar match, like, you're not going to be able to go as far as you want to. Like, with Cody and his Southern wrestling ways, like, I don't know. Unless something was said to Turner Broadcasting and they were able to be like, listen, this is what we're going to do, like, and they were cool with it, then, I don't know. Maybe something was talked about. Maybe they have a lot more faith and trust in Cody and the guys to be able to do something like this on cable television. I don't know.
I just feel like this should be Cody Brody too. I just think this should be a regular wrestling match.
Cody Brody 3.
And then we get to Cody Brody 3, which is a dog collar match.
There you go.
It just feels rushed. And like I said, I don't talk, and a lot of people might take this as negative, because if it's not, I'm just trying to be, like, very, very honest with my feelings, even as a Cody fan that wants to watch him wrestle every week and was very okay with the open challenge. This type of match feels rushed.
Yeah, it's just, and like it's.
Yeah, so
I'm sure it'll turn out well.
Yes.
But it just doesn't feel as like on point that it should.
Brandy coming out flipping, I thought that was awesome. The big breakaway. Another even thought for the second match. God, Brandy comes out, there's a brawl, Anna Jay jumps in next week, or this coming up week. Cody and Brandy versus, Brody Lee and Anna Jay. That would have been a good match, right? It'd
been nice to see Brandy back in the ring, too.
Yeah. It's like, the Cody. So I think we might honestly, bubbled gut feeling, is I think we're going to get that mixed tag at Full Gear.
Which it seems like those matches should be
swapped. Dog collar match at a pay-per-view. Amazing idea. Mixed tag at a pay-per-view. Again, I'm going to like it, but unless you're adding something to it, maybe it's a mixed tag in a cage. Maybe. But it just feels, well, like I said, it just feels, like I said, this match, I'm very excited for Cody to wrestle. I know it's going to be bloody. I know it's going to be sick and disgusting. I'm going to love it. I'm going to love this match. I know I am. But it's just me being honest, it just feels out of place. They might make it work. We will see.
Now, before we get into the next segment, did you have the same feeling about the Nyla Killian King spot like that I had, where it's like just kind of like, why not just give these two their own segment to build their match that they're supposed to have?
I honestly didn't really have a problem with it. Nyla Rose does seem like the person that's supposed to be there to break up a fight and would just start another fight.
Yeah, and again, I think it makes sense, but at the same time, I was like, if you want to build that match for next week,
like Nyla's not. I'm not security. I'm here to break bitches.
Oh yeah, I know.
No, like I said, it did seem like, now that you mention it, and then I'm like playing it in my head, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't really out of place, wasn't it? It's like, why did they do that?
It's like, if you want to build that match and make sure people are into it, like, why not give it its own segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just my thought. I mean, I'm sure the match will be great, and I'm sure that they'll like make it seem important, but like I just thought, like, just give them their own segment. You didn't need to stick it right into the brawl of a Cody Brody Lee feud. Like, it just seemed out of place. But
yeah, it's like you got a bologna sandwich and people throw like a watermelon slice in there, and it's like, okay, that doesn't go on my bologna sandwich. Why are you forcing that in there? It's like, no,
bro, exactly right. Exactly right.
It's like, no, that's
but
not
now.
right.
For all of you who are like, oh my God, Floyd's not getting his sell on for his favorite wrestler, don't worry. We got Cash Wheeler and Dax Hardwood and FTR right here in this segment, as Tony Schiavone interviews them backstage talking about best friends. And then after they talked about best friends, how they weren't 100%, they just went to war, and then they weren't going to give them a title match. But SCU, though, like, they're totally different. That's why we're facing them tonight. That's why this whole thing's happening. But then Tony's like, well, yeah, but what about the Young Bucks? And then Dax goes, what constitutes them having a championship match? Every time they've gotten an opportunity, they've blown it. Brought up the private party match, brought up Kenny and Hangman. And then if it's because Dave Meltzer loves them and throws them all the stars, then yeah, line them up. That then constitutes a AEW World Tag Team title match. But other than that, they don't deserve it. And then Tony Schiavone starts building a Full Gear coming up November 7th. Right before he asks who they're going to face at Full Gear, Young Bucks super kick him in the face. And Master's like, did we just interrupt something? And then he just... then they go like, oh, no, we're right here. Why don't you kick us? And then Bucks just walked away from that. And then also SCU was interviewed by Dasha before the match. And then they passed Shawn Spears, who just smirked and said, good luck. A little thing right there. So then we went into the tag team championship match between SCU and Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, FTR. Floyd, it's your boys. Just go ahead and lead into it.
Okay, so first I'm going to say this. The despicable, disgusting, diabolical Young Bucks. Oh my God!
I thought you were gonna say Tony Schiavone, and I was gonna fight you.
What? Do you not remember last week? What is the one thing?
I was gonna be like, what happened to the praise for Tony Schiavone?
What is the one thing you can't do?
I know. Okay. We now have established that. Continue.
The one thing you can't do is touch Tony Schiavone. That is literally like kicking a puppy.
It is.
That is so out of line. People want to call FTR the quote-unquote heels. They didn't beat up Tony Schiavone. Poor, defenseless Tony Schiavone. Who has Tony Schiavone ever wrestled against? Tony Schiavone doesn't fight. The dude is a former barista, one of the greatest voices of the wrestling generation, of my wrestling generation, the nicest man on earth, and they kicked him. That broke my heart. It was like they actually got heat with me, which I didn't think was possible. You don't kick Tony Schiavone.
No, you really don't, honestly. I was like, how could you?
How could you? FTR, you can talk about, they talk hard, they hit heavy, you could say every bad thing about them. They don't beat up Tony Schiavone.
They do not.
Come on, it's Tony Schiavone. I'm like, good Lord. I had a friend that when we were at All In and you could do the interview with Tony Schiavone, literally couldn't get a word out because he was such in awe of meeting Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone, like, basically flips it around, makes it he's excited to meet him, calms him down, and they make it through the interview. Tony Schiavone is a god among men. You don't kick Tony Schiavone. That's just messed up. I mean, hey. And again, FTR, because, they are not the sniveling, running from you heels. They say, hey, why don't you kick us? We're right here. They're just kicking Tony Schiavone for no reason. All right, we can move on from that. Just know, Young Bucks on my shit list right now. Then FTR comes out and Shawn Spears is there because Shawn Spears was just in the back trying to hang near FTR, hoping some of their greatness rubs off on him. I get it. You know what I would do it to do? When you want to be elite, you hang around, elite tag teams, And since the Young Bucks call themselves the elite, but don't really act elite like the FTR, he was just back there. Then he sees he sees Scorpio Sky, and he say, "What's up?" I saw all the tweets that Shawn Spears was going to get involved. Oh, whoa. TR doesn't need all of that. FTR, so they're getting a match with SCU, the former tag team champions. And then, Chris Daniels comes down to the ring. Oh, no reason for him to be down there, but he's down there. And then he trips. He trips when FTR takes face, and the referee had to kick him out. Can't believe that.
Oh my god.
So they didn't have an amazing match. Now, I don't generally when FTR is in the ring, I don't put over people. But Frankie Kazarian, they have to find something for him.
Oh yeah.
Because he's just so good. And it's one of those things that he's so consistently good, it almost at times comes off as boring because, you know, he's just going to put on a really great match every time. But then sometimes when he's put in the spotlight, he's like, he turns it up that extra notch to remind you how great he is. And it's like, dude, why aren't you doing more with him? Because he's kind of considered old, but the way he works, the way he moves, yeah, nothing old about that man. So
honestly, like, the thing with SCU is that every time I, like, try to pinpoint, I'm like, okay, I need to decide which one is my favorite. I just go, like, Scorpio's been killed. Well, but Frankie's also... But CD, though, is like... I cannot get over the fact that how each one of those guys have established themselves so much in that group. Like, I compare them in terms of how they've established themselves, in a sense, like, of like, characters to, like, something like the New Day. Like, each one of them has their pros, and they each have their... what they bring to the table for the group, and each one of them knocks it out of the park. Even with the New Day, where, like, guys like Xavier, I swear to God, should be getting way more than he does, because when you see him wrestle after, like, long periods of time where he doesn't wrestle, he's so freaking good. And, like, of course, the whole thing with Kofi and, like, how they botched his whole title run by just destroying it on SmackDown. But, like, I compare that with the way that each one of those members brings something special to the group is the way that I see with SCU. And, like, with Frankie, Jesus Christ, man, dude, I was not expecting Frankie to just go off there. Like, I knew he was going to do great, but, like, dude, where the hell? I was like, I must have been blind because I should have been seeing this, like, way long ago, because I was like, I must have been missing. He must have been doing this the whole time, and I just wasn't paying attention. So shame on me.
Yeah, Frankie K, he was the future at one point, and now he's just really good. He killed it with Adam Page a couple weeks ago, then kills it again in this match. In the end, I mean, great. They go for a suplex. FTR rolls them up. You know, perfect, clean pin.
Nothing Tully did whatsoever. No tripping whatsoever.
Oh, Tully was holding on to the mat and trying to hold himself up. And then I saw...
his fragile legs, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and then I saw Dax holding Tully up, you know, trying to help him out. And then...
oh, yeah, Chris. Live, man!
Yeah, but I saw Cash in there with a perfect pin. And, you know, another win. I mean, to SCU, to Frankie K, you had it. You had your time on TV, Scorpio Sky. I have to tell you, you're welcome. You got your brush for greatness. Now, and Sean Spears stayed in the back. So screw all of you who thought Sean Spears was going to, like, FTR was going to need Sean Spears' help. They're the best tag team in the world. Fear the revelation. FTR wins. Yes. Top guys. Out.
Okay, all right. But, yeah, overall, really freaking good match. Really great title match. And, again, like, honestly, it's just, like, I love the fact that SCU were the first tag team champions in AEW, but I want more from them. Like, I want more stuff from them. And I know CD had a little segment on being the Elite where he talked about, like, how his time might be up. And I'm, like, wondering if they're trying to tap back into the Dark Order stuff, or if that's actually legitimately, like, he's thinking of retiring. Which, if that's the case, that's a legendary career coming to an end, and it's going to be hard for me to watch it. But it's going to be interesting to see what turns out of it. But either way, like, every single one of the SCU members, every single one of them is nothing but quality, and I want to see, like, more stories involving them, like, so badly. So I'm sure they'll eventually get. I'm hoping just, like, sooner or later we can get something coming out of all three of those guys, because it's always going to be good. We then got an announcement from Tony Khan about an 8-man single elimination tournament that will be capping off at Full Gear, where the winner will get a shot at the AEW World Championship title. And 3 of the 8 competitors are Jungle Boy, Rey Fenix, and Kenny Omega. And also, at the same time, Hangman Adam Page was on commentary as Jim Ross asked if this was a shock to him. Hangman just goes, "I gotta go," takes his headset off, and then walks back with his whiskey. And doesn't seem happy about that. And then we got into the next match, which is we'll have more to talk about the tournament when more names get announced for it. I'm all for more tournaments in pro wrestling. They're always great. I'm currently in the process of trying to catch up with the G1 Climax, and I'm like loving every second of it. And we'll talk more about that, I think, when we get more names announced for it. But then we had Private Party's Isaiah Cassidy making his AEW singles debut with Mark Quinn and Matt Hardy accompanying him versus the Demo God Chris Jericho with the Inner Circle on his side. And this was strong. This was a good match. Honestly, there was points in it that I thought went a little slower, but I think it's just because we haven't seen these two really work a singles match before. And there was a lot of great moments in there, and overall, it was really, really, really strong. And it was a good win for Jericho getting the Judas Effect as Cassidy springboarded right into the Judas Effect. Great. I love how that move comes out of nowhere. Then after the match, after Jericho gets the win, Inner Circle tries to put a beating on Isaiah Cassidy. Matt Hardy gets a steel chair, and then Mark Quinn jumps to save Isaiah Cassidy. As they walk away, Jericho and Hager start throwing hands at Luther and Serpentico, which Taz talked about. They were a tag team known as Chaos Project, and they're undefeated as a tag team. So, and Luther's also one of, Excalibur pointed this out too, how Luther is one of Jericho's earliest career rivals back when they were at Stu Hart's dungeon in Calgary. I had no idea about that. Thank God Excalibur knows everything there is about everything in wrestling. So we are going to be seeing the team of Jericho and Hager versus Luther and Serpentico. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'll see where it goes.
Okay, so storyline: Luther accidentally hit Jericho in one of the fracases, and that's why he started fighting him. Behind the scenes, Luther and Jericho have known each other 30 years. One of Jericho's closest friends in wrestling, and so next week is Jericho's 30th anniversary and 30th year celebration. From what I understand, he wanted to be against the person he had his first match with, Lance Storm. They decided not to do that, but they did want to do it with someone Jericho had like a early first match with. That's Luther. So he's throwing one of his close friends, they got a contract. Of course, he has a contract. Throwing him a bone, getting him on Dynamite because he's been pretty much exclusively a dark performer. So, and it goes back. It's a part of his 30 years, and it's like Luther's character, Chaos Project, is about being the ultimate form of evil. That's what it is. There's nothing good inside of him. So it even works because, even though Jericho and Hager are heelish, they're apparently not as evil as Luther. So, yeah, it works on a few different ways. The great thing about it is, somebody like Jericho, think about it, AEW doesn't probably exist without Jericho, with the crossover appeal Jericho brings. So you want to throw him a bone, you throw him a bone. You know what I mean? You say, hey, hey, we're gonna get your guy on here. We'll make it work. And it's just like you do it for Jericho. 30 years in the business, you do it for him. So it's awesome. I love it. Luther is a very, I wouldn't call him great, but he's a very good wrestler. You know what I mean? It's not like he can, he's serviceable. He ain't horrible or anything. So, they'll have a good match. Serpentico was really good. Serpentico is one of the up-and-coming guys, and he's really good. And I'm thinking he has to be signed to an AEW contract, because they literally use him just, so much.
I was going to say.
They use him so much. He might not be announced, but it's seeming more and more like he's signed, so that works, and looking forward to that going forward. Match was good. Isaiah Cassidy, only his second singles match, ever. First, like recorded on TV, and he held up his own very well. And we said it last week. He's catching the Judas effect, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3. That's what happened. But he did look really good in it. And it's funny because we both had Mark Quinn had a singles match. We've had Isaiah Cassidy have a single match, and they both performed very well as singles. And that builds towards their tag team future. And maybe if they don't stay a tag team forever and they eventually split, you see what you have to look forward to.
Yeah. And honestly, for the match with Jericho and Hager and Serpentico and Luther, in a show that's dedicated to Jericho's 30 years in pro wrestling, he can book whatever the fuck kind of match he wants. It's like, it's going to be a big celebration for Jericho in terms of like the match that he wants to put on. So, you know what? Go for it. And I'm still intrigued to see how it'll turn out. We then had an incredibly odd segment of Best Man Miro and Kip Sabian. They were hanging out at an arcade talking about the bachelor party for Kip Sabian's wedding and how Miro's the best man. They're at Dave & Buster's, and they're just playing video games, and they're playing arcade games. And then there's a point where Kip Sabian walks away or whatnot, and then Miro is playing Pac-Man. And then all of a sudden, arcade world record holder Billy freaking Mitchell shows up. And I'm like, what the hell? And he says he could help out if you want to do something really crazy. And Miro was intrigued by the idea. Then, of course, they take a jab about him possibly cheating at the game because back in like the mid 2010s, found out he was using an emulator for one of his world records. But I mean, dude still has a pretty big lineage in the video game community. Not great now. Pretty sure, like, I saw comments on the video just being like, he's the biggest heel in AEW just for showing up. Which, yeah, I get that. But the last person I thought I'd see in AEW is Billy freaking Mitchell. So I just saw his mug, and I was just like, You what now? Excuse me? Okay, sure. He showed up. This is completely just out of control and weird, and I don't get it. But okay, sure, he's here apparently. But
yeah, I thought that was really cool. I had no idea who the guy was until I heard his name, and I was like, I don't know who the hell that is. But Andy Nemedy was throwing it out there. And I went and looked that up. But it looked like he had a bunch of legitimate records.
Oh, yeah.
Before that one. Yeah, I was like, screw you.
That's all it took.
Yeah, I was like, screw that.
That's all it took, man. That's all it took for people to be like, fraud.
Yeah, it's like nothing. You lied once, so you have never told the truth in your whole existence. I don't know. I'm a more forgiving person. It's like the dude was elite. I mean, to get in the Guinness Book of World Records the first few times, he had to do it on an arcade box in front of the Guinness Book of World Records guy. So it's like, I don't. Yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole because I'm not a gamer guy. This is like me talking to someone that hates football about using the I formation versus the spread. You know what I mean? It's like. No. Yeah, this is like, that's me. This is me. I am out of my depth talking about Billy Mitchell. I don't know why. It's like I shouldn't have actual thoughts on that because I am not an elite gamer at all. I just play video games, so I will leave that to someone else. But I thought it was funny. I thought it was a really cool. The one thing about AEW it does do a lot of inside baseball. So there's this guy at home with his 4 friends. They might know a little bit more about wrestling than him, but they're all watching together. And he's like, that's Billy Mitchell. And then he starts throwing off the facts like you just did. And for that 5-minute period, he's kind of cool. So congrats to that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say, honestly, also, I will say, Billy Mitchell was already a heel when he tried to sue Regular Show for them like parodying his likeness in an episode. That was fucking stupid. Like I was like when that whole thing broke down, and like I'm like one of the only people that actually remember that happened. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, why on earth are you trying to sue a kids show over them using your likeness. Like, get the fuck over it.
I always say with those type of things, you don't know what led to it. It might have been like a thing. I've heard of people suing people. I've heard of people suing it, and then you'll find out that the person called Nasty used their likeness, and then they said no, and then they did it anyway. Yeah, if you do that, yeah, I'm gonna sue you. I don't care who you are.
That's what however it goes, whatever.
Yeah, if you do something shady, no, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how the situation went down. It sounds messed up, as for me, you sue the kids show,
yeah, seriously, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But either way, after this, there was a small little segment with FTR backstage interrupting best friends, calling themselves top guys and poking fun at them. Right as they started to walk away, best friends looked like they're gonna attack FTR. They flinched, put up their guards, and then right before they left, Orange Cassidy took the mic and called them weenies again. And they're just digging that consistently, and they're going to until they get their title match. And then
it's one of those things that would be way better if they had a huge crowd that every time FTR came out, weenies, that would be and they got actually over. It's like one of those things where you don't know if it's over.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no fans to get it over. But it's it sounds a little silly, but when everybody starts calling them weenies, that'd be pretty freaking epic.
Oh, yeah. And then we had Orange Cassidy facing off against Dark Orders in 10. Orange Cassidy was trying to get a win back after he got beat by Mr. Brody Lee for the TNT title. And while 10 blasted him from behind before the match started, Orange Cassidy was able to get a pretty consistent win as also, I loved how the Dark Order mocked Best Friend's hug. I thought that was great. But Orange Cassidy was able to get the pretty decisive win, got the beach break on 10, and got the pin. And it was it was what it was. It was Orange Cassidy pretty much getting back at the Dark Order in a way for getting beat by Mr. Brody Lee for the TNT title. I mean, that's pretty much what it was, and it did that.
Yeah, John Silver is a star, and you noticed.
No question.
You noticed they trying to get him on TV more. He's literally the Dark Order member that's on screen the most. Not Anna Jay, not Brody Lee, John Silver. Anytime it's the Dark Order, he's at least out there managing him because they just want to get him outside, get him on the ring.
Speaking of John Silver again, my favorite being the Elite, the thing that's besides the consistent promos of Eddie Kingston cutting promos on sweets, he cut a promo on a pack of, what was it? He cut a promo on
Sour Patch Kids.
Sour Patch Kids. Yeah, and besides that, my other favorite thing was when the Dark Order, for no apparent reason, were backstage singing Cody's theme song. It was adrenaline in my soul, something Cody
Rhodes, yeah.
And then Brody Lee walks in what the fuck are you guys doing? And he's like, oh, we were singing your theme song. He's like, you're singing my theme. How the fuck does my theme song go? And they're just like, Mr. Brody Lee, he is so handsome. And I'm just losing my mind.
I popped at the fact that Brody Lee actually liked it. He's like, yeah. Yeah. Sing it again. It was, yeah. I laughed. Yeah. I don't like the, making fun of Cody, but that part. But it's funny. John Silver is hilarious. John Silver is the amount of comedic timing is. There's not a lot of people that I ever say, especially anymore, that I want to go to WWE. But all I can imagine is the stuff him and R-Truth could come up working off of each other.
Oh my God.
That would be epic, just working off of each other, because it's just it's the reason they're so good is because they just don't give a fuck at all. They'll do whatever, And they don't mind being silly. They don't mind being that. He just has that energy, and I would just love to see what they could come up together. But yeah, I love him. I love him. He has found his spot in AEW. And he could
He really has.
do the same thing for 10 years. I don't think anybody would ever get tired of it just because he goes all in on whatever he's doing. And I love it. I love it. I love John Silver. I swear by John Silver. You're talking about, let's see, we're in October. February. I think, yeah, it was February. I went to see AEW in Dallas, right outside of Dallas. And, like, in the opening match, he beats up, I think, John Silver. And then he beats up Alex Reynolds the second after that. Who knew in 10 months he would be like an act that mattered? They were like two nobodies. I literally used to get their names mixed up.
Yeah.
Oh, the Beaver Boys' names mixed up. It's like, I don't know.
And there were slight points on like being the Elite where you saw like there's something there, but like you kind of didn't really give it much thought because they were just like small. Like when they were trying to get Orange Cassidy to sign with join the Dark Order, and he's just like slowly pushes like the like their drink over or whatnot, and he's just like, "Don't you do that! I swear to God, if you push that over, and it's like you can see it there. It's like it's there, and you're like, okay, that's something I didn't expect. Like, and then you just kind of blow it off, and then all of a sudden, as months go by, it's like he wears you down, and you're just like, oh my God, I love this man.
He reminds me of Flip Gordon, but more over. You know how Flip Gordon wasn't like, but he kind of became his whole, Cody and him hating each other, but he's friend of Randy. Flip Gordon got over on BTE, and it was like John Silver got over on BTE.
Yeah. Now just don't go the path of Flip Gordon right now, and we'll be good.
Flip Gordon just likes attention, and I mean that's kind of how I treat him. Like the little brother, and you like the little brother that just wants your attention, tugs on your shirt, and you just kind of pat him on his head, like, okay, I'm paying attention to you, but I don't take you seriously. That's pretty much my relationship with Flip Gordon. I don't take him seriously at all. When he was like, oh, he believes in flat Earth, I'm like, sure he does. Oh, he doesn't believe in vaccines. Sure he doesn't. I just think he likes attention. I think he says shit so people are paying attention to him.
Yeah. Anyways.
There's people like that will take whatever the contrary inside of it is just so people pay attention to them.
I mean, that's why, yeah. I mean, we'll just leave it at that. We then had MJF come along with Wardlow with a gift for Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle. He walks into their locker room, and they're kind of just eyeing him up. He gives them Inner Circle jackets, and then he was just like, oh my God, I forgot one for Sammy. And like, this is so, like, Wardlow, what the hell happened here? And then like Jericho and Sammy are like, what the hell are you doing here? And all he's doing is like, MJF's like, I'm here to congratulate you on your victory. That's all I want to do. And then Jericho is like, well, I asked you a question a long time ago, and I'm still picking up what you're laying down here. So he's going to ask again, do you want to join the Inner Circle? And MJF's like, I don't want to be rude, but I asked you a question. Do you want me to join the Inner Circle? And then just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They then congratulate each other. Well, MJF congratulates him on the 30-year run. They leave, and then Sammy just goes, what a loser. And then Jericho goes, maybe not. So MJF possibly doing more stuff with Jericho and maybe becoming the Dark Order. But like, we know he'll do more stuff with Jericho, but joining not the Dark Order, the Inner Circle.
He's trying, most importantly, he's trying to force Sammy out of the Dark Order.
Yeah.
He's literally just trying to take Sammy's spot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool if he could either turn into, I see it going two ways. Turning Sammy face, which, turning Sammy face by, Dark Order, or Inner Circle kind of kicking him out. That could be one.
Yeah.
Two, MJF is not trying to take Sammy's spot. He's trying to take Jericho's spot.
Maybe.
And then they turn on Jericho, and then Jericho can go face for a while. Because Jericho's been heel for, 2 the year and 5 months this company's existed, you know he's gonna have a face run at some point.
Eventually, yeah.
Because he's just too popular. His music is just too over. People love singing his song. So, you know he's going to have a face run. So, maybe this could lead to it. But it looks like the next feud is going to be MJF versus Sammy G.
Yeah, which, I mean, like, you got a sex god, but then you have, like in comparison, probably like a crack whore, something like that.
My whole thing is like, I love Sammy, but you get in a feud with MJF, you're going to have to bring it on the mic. That is like,
oh yeah, it's the biggest thing he's got to do. Yeah,
yeah, it's like you have to go into a master's class. You're going into a master's class. You have someone that, I mean, Sammy G is a prodigy, you know, in the ring. He can do anything in the ring, but on that mic, man. Shit, I'd put MJF against Stone Cold any day, you know, and I think Stone Cold is like one of the best on the mic ever, but MJF is so quick-witted and just such an asshole that I think he could hang. I think he would have fit right in there, you know, doing the great talkers of wrestling, so I'm looking forward to it going forward. Yeah.
Which if you haven't heard MJF on Stone Cold's podcast, you gotta listen to that. Like, oh my God. That's a fun time.
See, I didn't even know that happened, and that's weird.
You didn't know that happened?
I mean, this is the first I've heard of it. I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, it was about like a little over a year ago, I think.
Yeah, he was on Broken Skull. Yeah. Huh? That's awesome.
There you go. We then had the return of Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, to the ring as she faced Red Velvet in her first match after being out with an injury. She was like fully like working that heel persona. Like you could see like how like now she's really, her character is she's really figured out her heel persona. And now she's really trying to get down her heel tactics in the ring. After the match, she gets her lockjaw finisher after she gets like a black glove from Reba, and then just starts digging in that lockjaw on Red Velvet to send a message to the women's roster. And like she's like, all I can say is like honestly, I'm happy she can wrestle again, because it's like having her on TV and having her be her heel persona and really work it is great. But now it's like you're seeing the first woman signed to AEW back in the ring. I'm all for it, and it was just a good return. Like honestly, like it's Red Velvet got a pretty good showing in it, and like that's great. And like I'm sure people wanted to see her return be at All Out like it was supposed to, but she's back. At this point, that's all I care about at this point. Oh,
and the thing is, she looked amazing.
Yeah,
she looked really good in her role. Is like she has her moves set down. That's what she's gonna do. How she's gonna work. I love the added touch of Reba jumping in, putting a glove on her, so she can then put in a lockjaw after the match was over. That was great. Love her finisher, which is the curb stomp in essence. And so yeah, I am down with Britt Baker. She took the time that she was off, watched film, and looked like she came up with what works for her, because it looked really, really good. Again, living with, I'm not taking any credit away from Britt Baker. I'm not taking any credit away from Kenny Omega and all the people putting matches together, including her. But you have to say, living in the same house is one of the best heels in the last 10 years of wrestling. Can't hurt.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it works.
It really does. We then finished off the show with the main event as Eddie Kingston, flanked by Penta L0M and Rey Fenix, drags Bryce Remsburg by the shirt collar, and then Eddie Kingston's going and says he did not tap out to that bulldog choke. So now he gets to pick Jon Moxley's opponent for tonight, as we built into the show. Before he discloses who's going to kick your ass, he's got to talk to a friend of mine, or so I thought. He starts going after Bryce Remsburg. You never heard me say I quit. I never tapped. So what made you think, what gave you the right, what gave you the balls to ring that bell? And then Remsburg just explains he's known him for 18 years. You were unresponsive. You can't call or text me all weeks. You want to bring me out here? Like he just tries to talk about how
I love the referee with balls. Oh God, I love that.
That line was so good.
Yes, because they just come off as so sniveling most of the time. But Bryce Winsberg's like, I'm not, dude, I'm not scared of you. Like I did my job, just like you do your job. I did my job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he then gets the Lucha Bros to surround Bryce Winsberg. Not happy by his response. AEW champion Jon Moxley hits the ring. He's got a barbed wire bat with him. As he gets into the ring, they move outside, and then Eddie Kingston just goes, "You're fighting the Butcher tonight. Rensburg, ring the bell." And then that's for the title of the match was set up to be the Butcher versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title. And first off, I loved how they set up this match, just like going into it for the main event. And yeah, it was just a really, really great. Considering it was like. I wasn't expecting much from a singles match with the Butcher. I was surprised hardcore. He really did well in this match. And afterwards, Moxley hit the paradigm shift for the win. And then he hit the Bulldog choke on the Butcher. And Butcher actually tapped out. So he's really working that Bulldog choke as one of his new finishes. And that was the finish of the show. And really strong way to finish it. Honestly, you can't really say too many bad things about it. It's just really, really solid main event.
Yeah, the Butcher's only been wrestling like a few years. Good old Andy Williams. That being said, make sure you check out good old Andy Williams and the Blade on Unrestricted this week. They are like the nicest people ever. So it's kind of funny because, they play the Butcher and the Blade. But in this match, he held his own. He was just a big old hoss. And, with his facial hair and how his attitude, he comes off very much, menacing. And this match was very physical. And somewhere halfway through the match, you did see him seemingly get a little tired, which you have to think about it. He's a tag team wrestler. Yeah. He's not used to, being in the ring that much, so I thought that was, I thought it was cool. I thought he did a great job. Jon Moxley, the badass that he is, I just think as far as to take, if your idea is to bring a serious badass attitude to the AEW World Title, he's the perfect guy. When someone beats him, whether it be heel or another face or whoever beats him, it is going to put them over amazingly because they've done such an excellent job as building him as unbeatable.
Oh, yeah. And then that was the wrap for this week's AEW Dynamite, which really, really good show, I think, honestly. Like, there was nothing other than a couple nitpicks I had. I didn't really have too much wrong with the show. We gave the Cody Brody build a lot of hard, but that's just because we hold Cody's builds to matches and for big matches to a lot more.
I hold it to a higher standard. Yeah, I really do. He's deserved it. He's earned it. Every other match, I'm talking from the beginning, the Dustin match, Sean Spears match. It was like they weren't the main event of the card, but they felt like the best belt of the match. Then you go to Jericho, MJF, even the TNT title, and it's just like this. You see the people. Brody Lee is this guy, and he's big and he's menacing, and I'm just like, it feels like they could have done a little more to make it bigger.
Yeah, that's all. That's pretty much it, honestly, with that. Now we're gonna go ahead and get into the preview for next week's Dynamite. But before we do that, I want to let you know that support for All Things Elite is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you with the best tools for your grooming experience. And if you go and place an order and use the code SUPLEX in your order, you can get 20% off that order and get free shipping alongside it. Not one or the other. You get both of them. And Floyd Johnson Jr., my man, can always shout out Manscaped and tell you why they are worth a purchase.
Yes, I usually put over the Lawnmower 3.0, and that is the crown jewel, pun intended, of the that is the crown jewel of Manscaped. But I'm going to talk about the crop refresher. I've talked about it before. It's deodorant for your balls. As a person that goes out to wrestling events, and almost all of them are outside, and you're going to be out for 5-6 hours, and then you may go out to a bar and you try and hook up, what I mean? It's like, dude, you need to make sure you're good down there. If you're gonna do your thing, you need to make sure you're good down there. And I'm just telling you, the crop refresher, the ball deodorant, amazing, keeps you fresh all day long. Carry a little bit around in your bag. Maybe you have to re-up, but for the most part, it keeps you good down there. So definitely go to manscaped.com, put in the code SUPLEX, order some crap, 20% off. And by crap, I mean amazing things to make your balls glisten. And then you can then you can go in, you can go out, and you can go out with the confidence. Again, you can walk a little taller, move through your day.
Yeah, and thank you so much to Manscaped for sponsoring All Things Elite. We really appreciate it. Going into the preview for next week's AEW Dynamite, the first Dynamite of October of 2020, we have Will Hobbs versus Brian Cage, and the FTW Championship is on the line. We also have FTR versus TH2 in a 20-minute Brush with Greatness match. Oh boy. We then have, of course, Jericho and Hager versus Chaos Project, Luther and Serpentico for Jericho's 30th anniversary match, and then the dog collar match for the TNT Championship between Cody and Mr. Brody Lee. Now, honestly, the match that has me the most intrigued is the FTW Championship match because, holy shit, that title is being defended. So, and it's Will freaking Hobbs that's challenging for it, so...
And
yes.
My propensity and my love for my favorite thing, big men slapping meat, and that's what you're gonna get in this match. You got Will Hobbs. He's more of a traditional, big man. He's gonna throw you in the spine buster. He's gonna throw you around, real physical. Then you got the freak of nature himself, the hybrid, the Swolverine, the FTW champion Brian Cage, who can hit you with a jackhammer and then hit you with a shooting star press because he's a freak of nature. And how they line up against each other is going to be great. It's going to be physical, and you just it's like you're going to remember the Keith Lee and Donovan Dijakovic matches, where that's where it seems like this could go. Will Hobbs is, we might get a new FTW champion. I know it's not an official belt, but Taz is all about his title, and if you lose, you lose. So I'm looking forward to that. That's actually the second match I'm looking most forward to on a show that has my FTR on it and my Cody on it. So I'm looking forward to this show. FTR has Jack Evans. Again, Jack Evans, he's been wrestling forever, and I, for the life of me, don't know how he's able to do what he does. I saw him at a show literally do a handstand and walk all the way down the ramp to the end, and then kind of flip up on his legs. I was like,
I did gymnastics, and I still don't know how he does that shit.
Yeah, he has no bones. And if anybody could out shit talk FTR, and it's close. I'm not giving him the win, but it's close. It's Jack Evans, because not only can he shit talk, he can do it with one letter and not mess up. His alliteration skills are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I give it to Jack Evans. I'm looking forward to him and then Helico. And Helico is more of a ground-based Mexican submission style, Lucha Libre submission style. So that actually kind of goes along with what, FTR's ground-based style. So it's going to be a nice transition there. And, of course, the dog collar match, which, 2 words, fucking nuts. That's all I can say. I mean, I can't even tell you what to expect, because I really don't even know what the rules to an AEW dog collar match are going to be. We just know it's going to be a dog collar match.
Yeah. And also, we don't know what TNT is even going to let them get away with. But honestly, yeah, I'm I'm thinking the show leading up to this is going to be really, really exciting. And overall, that's everything that we've got from AEW. We've covered a couple things that we saw on Being the Elite, covered AEW Dynamite, and we're previewing AEW Dynamite for next week. So that's episode 79 of All Things Elite in the books. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please make sure that you downloaded this fine show on Google or Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and a review. If you're so inclined to, leave a donation through our podcast provider, Red Circle. And again, Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. Share with your friends and family. We would genuinely really appreciate it. And again, on Twitter, we are at AT Elite Pod, at Social Suplex, at SZoomer4. That's myself, at Floyd Johnson Jr. That is Floyd. But that's all we have for this show, so it's just time for Floyd to take us home here.
All right, I'm going to be quick. I'm going to thank everyone who has been listening since the show has started. Like I said, a second, an hour, a minute, a download. We appreciate everything you do, and thank you. I will say make sure I know the deadline to register to vote in most states is October 9th. I'm not sharing or anything my political affiliation. I do think it is important to let your voice be heard no matter what side of the fence you're on. If maybe you're in the middle, maybe you're in, whatever you are. October 9th, make sure you register to vote for the election next month. Make sure you're social distancing. We're getting more breakouts, unfortunately. You thought this thing was close to going away, but you're now getting more breakouts with different sports, and our president now has it, and it's just like, that's unfortunate. My thoughts and prayers with everybody that has been affected by the coronavirus, but just make sure you're wearing your mask, social distancing, just following the guidelines, because that's how show you love your family and take care of each other. Just want to throw that out there before I say this. Whether you are at home, you are at work, or you at school, always do your best to be elite.